Welcome to the Good News Bay podcast, where we are making Bay County brighter one conversation at a time. Today, this is a special one. This is really the beginning of our second full year, almost 2 years to the day of our very first podcast. We were in this room. This wall was a different color.
It was.
We didn't have a logo. We didn't have these microphones. We didn't have this furniture. We didn't have hardly anything. But we had General Mark McQueen, and it is still.
And you did not have.
We didn't have the swag.
Coveted, not yet seen on eBay.
There you go.
Good News Bay.
There are not many of the Good News Bay hats there.
There we go. We got this going.
The caps are a thing. It looks great with the suit.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Put it right there.
We are so delighted to have our new school superintendent, General Mark McQueen. Not new to Bay County, not new to leadership. And I'm thrilled that you're here. For those that don't know, like I said, we've done it. We're going to put the link to the other podcast. You can get a lot more information, background information. So much going on. We want to give you a chance to cast some vision. I do want to say 36 years in the military. Is that right?
36.
In the Army specifically.
Yes, sir.
2-star general, helped rebuild infrastructure in Iraq,
Afghanistan,
and then lots of places.
Lots of other.
You were administrator. Did a lot of things at First Baptist Church, Panama City here, before becoming city manager.
Panama City.
For Panama City, and you were there
5 years.
You started right after the hurricane.
2 weeks before.
Right before the hurricane.
Yep, 2 weeks before.
Did not know that Hurricane Michael was in and so that was, I think God's hand was in that.
I do too.
That being said, I want to pause right there because one of the reasons I wanted to be able to interact, like we've got a couple of sections here, but number one is I wanted you to talk about the role that you're in and how you got to be in this role. When I'm saying that, like you went from being city manager and a little bit of new leadership, you had put in your resignation. And then I think can you tell us how you got that phone call and how this came to be? Because you've been doing this now for just, 3-4 weeks?
3 weeks now.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Dr. Steve, thanks so much for inviting me to be on your program. Thanks so much for this podcast. It's so refreshing to hear the good news in Bay because God is blessing this community immensely. And we lose sight of that often unless we are intentional about talking about what really is good news within Bay County. And there's an awful lot. As you've seen in the 31 now podcasts, and you've been trumpeting that from the forefront, and I applaud you for that. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for what you're doing to build disciples here at Emerald Coast. And it's a phenomenal church and great congregational members and certainly far-reaching impact. And so thank you. I'm humbled to be here with you. Well, I'll tell you, as we go through our life journey, you just have to trust God. And my whole life, I've just trusted God.
I've seen that in a book somewhere.
Have you now?
The Bible has that a lot.
The Bible says something about trusting God.
It does.
His plans are always better than our own plans. And I can clearly see as I moved into that position as a city manager that all of my time in the military was preparing me for that time to serve this great community as a city manager. And I was able to be in a position to do more, and I think we were able to move more quickly as a result of that with regard to our recovery efforts. And then I tendered my resignation, not knowing what God's plan was for the next chapter of my life. I really had no idea back in May when I tendered my resignation. And friends and fellow believers reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you think about being the superintendent for Bay District Schools?" Of course, Bill Husfeld, good friend, had already announced his retirement back in January of this year. But I hadn't thought about it. I've never looked at being aspirationally a superintendent of a school system, just like I never thought about being a city manager. But you just have to trust God as He's prodding you and leading you and gently nudging you to go in different directions. And clearly I was humbled probably nobody was more shocked when I finally got the phone call from the governor's office saying, hey, he's about to announce you as the next superintendent for Bay District Schools. And I appreciate his trust and confidence in me, but more, I appreciate the citizens of this community that have written me notes and texts and just words of encouragement as I take on a position that many in this community said, don't do it. Don't go in there. There's no win for you. But it's not about me. It's about what we can do to serve others. And that's what my intent is to serve this community and to really heighten the level of academic excellence in this community.
Now, it was a governor appointment, right? And that's for a year?
Well, it's for the unfulfilled term of Mr. Husfelt, which will expire in November of next year.
Okay.
Of 24. So I will be running to see what happens next year.
And how long did you have, how much notice did you have between when you got the phone call that says we're about to announce it and when it, like, cause you talked to some folks about it several weeks before, but had not actually heard anything.
Heard nothing. I went through the interview process a few weeks earlier and didn't hear anything for a couple weeks. I thought, well, I knew that there were others that had applied, and I just assumed that the governor was thinking about somebody else. But then I got the phone call, and on a Wednesday afternoon at 5:02, and they said in 20 minutes the governor's going to be announcing you. And it's like, okay, off to the races. And that was on a Wednesday, and I was to start that following Tuesday. So I had to transition with the city of Panama City. I was very grateful to the mayor and the commissioners and the entire staff of the city of Panama City that helped me, all the employees that helped me in that 5-day transition to exit the city and to start as the new superintendent.
Like right before school started.
Well, in fact, the day I started was the day one of the faculty being in their in-service. So I was meeting 2,000 faculty and staff on Tuesday the 1st and Wednesday the 2nd of August. And that was a blessing for sure. And meeting all of those administrators and teachers and support personnel that I did. It's amazing the committed professionals that we have in the domain of education here in Bay County.
A couple of things that I want to mention. You were not on my radar for this role, which is not that you should be.
That's two of us now.
I know. They kept it so hush hush. I mean, I heard your name like even the day before is when I actually. By then, I guess they were starting. The cat was starting. They were real hush hush about it. What I find fascinating is that I know that there's a lot of talk within our community over the last period of time. Like once Mr. Husfelt expressed that he was going to resign, and I do think we don't always do a good job of honoring people that have served long and well. As you were serving as city manager in that role, Mr. Husfelt was serving in the same seat that you are. Through unprecedented times.
That's right.
And nobody gets everything right. He is also a friend of mine and somebody that I think has served under very difficult circumstances and served well. But as there's been discussion of what does the next phase look like, there are those in a business background that would say, hey, we need somebody that has a strong business acumen and understanding of the HR kind of things and big budgets at a high level that you don't necessarily get with an educational background. But then all the educators, they hear that and they're like, well, was there an education? Oh, we need an educator. I happen to believe there needs to be some of both. Here's what I love about the fact that like decisions been made, and I think it's a great decision just for whatever it's worth. But the truth will be in the pudding, right? But we want to support. But what's cool is that you have some understanding of education from a lot of different ways. I mean, military has given you some of that, but Miss Karen,
yep, my wife,
was an educator in Bay District Schools for 30 years.
She retired after 30 years. She did 29 years here in Bay District Schools.
So when you're married to one, you learn a few things.
I've heard a lot.
You definitely know what the gripes are. I mean, she's not a complainer, I don't think at all, but you know what the things are that are the struggles. But I also think it's great that you know our area. You know where we've been. You know what we've been through. You know the struggles. Like, is it at least a fair statement that because of in some of the meetings that I was in as a pastor leader trying to encourage things in the community, you were in some of those same meetings as a city manager. And so I just have to know that you probably were in even other meetings about how do we help educationally and how do we meet the needs of some of these children. So seen some pieces that the rest of us haven't anyway, right?
I believe so. Doesn't mean I have the only
No.
advantage, but I have seen education. I would tell you the last 30 years, the domain of education is wildly transformed. It's gone through a lot of changes, and some for the good and maybe some for the not so good. And it's really been interesting to see that dynamic. I've seen it through the eyes of an educator, my wife. I've seen it through the eyes of my kids, who are products of the Bay District School system. They both graduated from Mosley. So did my wife, by the way. She graduated from Mosley. So we got a lot of Dolphins and Dolphin pride there in Team McQueen. But the
Is
other,
this where I say go Dolphins? I mean, I love the other schools too, but I am one.
It's all good. We're blessed to have such great high schools. Oh my goodness, I am blown away by that. But also, don't know if you know, but when I first moved here, I worked at Gulf Coast, then community college. I worked there for 9 years, and I was an academic advisor.
I didn't know
and
that.
And then was an adjunct faculty member in the math department teaching algebra. So I've got a degree in finance, and so that's I've got a little bit of experience in education.
I didn't know that. That's
and
good.
So, but not K through 12 or Haney, pre-K through Haney. I don't have that experience.
So in these early days, I have a little social media experience, and so I see pictures of you in all these different schools. You've been to a lot of them already.
I have, and what a blessing. Yeah, my objective is to get out to see every one of the schools, to walk the campuses, to talk to the principals, engage with the faculty and the students, and get a sense of each of the schools. Each school, whether elementary, middle, high school, combination school, K through 12 or K through 8, I mean, whatever the configuration is, they all have a different look and feel and character and culture to it.
They do.
And getting that sense of that, you just can't read it on a piece of paper or in a report. You've got to get out just like I did in the military. You always have to get out where the action is, where the troops are. And that's clearly what I'm striving to accomplish. And I think that will help me to help as I'm striving to coalesce a new vision and mission for the Bay District school system. Having that perspective, I think, will help to make that sharper as we're moving forward. I'm trying to give myself the first 90 days as an opportunity to really do a deep dive into some of the challenges that we face. What is our goal? To have the premier education opportunity of anyone in Panhandle of Florida right here. I have to tell you, I'm a little, as I'm going through this whole thing, I'm impressed with the professionalism and the commitment of our educators. We have amazing educators, and I'm not saying it just because I'm in the business and this is my team, but I'm blown away by what they're doing, how they're overcoming challenges, and what they're doing to pour into our young people. It's amazing. At the same time, I acknowledge that when you start just looking at raw data, we're number 35 in the state. I do not understand that. 35 out of 67. Why are we in the bottom half? And I'm going to peel back that onion. I'm going to figure this out. It's interesting to note that our sister county to the west of us, Walton County, great academic education system that they have over there. But 6 years ago, they were number 35, and now they're number 3. So they've gone from 35 to 3 in 6 years. Ironically, the county immediately to their west, which is Okaloosa County, is number 4. So why do we have in the heart of the Panhandle the 4th, the 3rd, and the 35th all right here together? I'm looking at this, and I'm going to try to figure out a new strategy for Bay District school system that elevates our academic achievement and performance and takes us from the downward trend we're on. We were 27th just a few years ago. We're at 35 right now. Reverse that trend and take us in an accelerated fashion to excellence.
I may be oversimplifying this, and where I am, you make it sound the way that it's supposed to, but I've observed enough to know that we have because of all the construction, because of all the we have rebuilt infrastructure in Bay County, airport, all kind of industry coming here. We have a team of folks in multiple levels that are actively pursuing businesses, like world-class businesses to come here. I know some of, look, I'm looking dead in the camera. I know some of y'all don't want anybody new to come to Bay County, but let me just tell you, the fact of the matter is, for your children and grandchildren to be able to get a job here that will pay them a reasonable income, and for it to be that kind of community, we've got to turn this corner. For that to happen, those companies are not going to come here if there's not an educational opportunity for their kids.
Exactly.
And,
or an educated or trained workforce to hire.
Okay.
So it's both ways. And I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off,
you're good.
But that is why education is so important. It's not only an attractor for people coming to this community, but it's also for businesses. One of the key elements that they're looking for is a trained and or educated workforce.
Right.
That is critical. And in this competitive environment of larger corporations or mid-sized corporations that are moving, they're looking for better places to go. And clearly, Florida is on the radar. Florida is open for business.
Yes, sir.
There are 1,000 people a day that are moving to the state of Florida. Ironically, 2 years ago, just before we had our podcast, the New York Times came out with an article about the mass migration that took place during the pandemic. Yes, and the number 8 city in the nation that people moved to, was Panama City.
Yep.
And it was reaffirmed, I believe it was in U.S. News and World Report 3 months ago, that we're still in the top 10. People are coming to Bay County.
They are. And
they're coming in droves. And that's in addition to what we already have taking place organically with our military friends and neighbors, certainly with Tyndall Air Force Base, with the ramp up of what they're doing with the F-35s, the number of airmen that are going to be assigned out there as those 35s are rolling in is amazing. And so the small Bay County that we all remember from 30 years ago or when you were growing up is not going to happen. But however, we should not lose our values.
Agreed.
We can get bigger and not lose our values and not lose our respect for each other and concern for each other. And those are the core things that make it this place why people want to come. Certainly they love the beach. Certainly they love the water. But what makes the difference, and wherever I go, people always talk about the people in Bay County are so kind. It's amazing. And it's true. And for people who are grown up here, that have grown up here, we don't know any different, right? No. We just, this is how you're supposed to treat people, is with dignity and respect and kindness and support and help. And we've seen that time and time and time again through tragedy and triumph. Tragedy, we have experienced triumph, like Hurricane Michael. Look at it. How many stories? It was neighbors helping neighbors, people who had never seen each other or talked to each other. They were neighbors that came together after that storm and to help each other.
Well, I know that we've got because we have been through so much. There's so many folks that they're weary from the struggle. But I like to remind people that we can do hard things. Like, we have done hard things, and we know that we can because we've done it. We've lived through them. And what we're talking about is not a small thing, but it's worth it, and it's doable. Like, we can rally together instead of separately with different competing agendas. We can get behind a similar mission. Like, you've been appointed to this, right? You say you're going to run, which is great, next November. But between now and then, like, there's no reason we can't all rally together. And so we're going to run short on time. There's so much I want to talk about. But if I'm a military family getting relocated to this area, or considering a business move into this area, how can they, and some just have moved here, how can they help us in this process, or what do they need to know about? I mean, obviously the trajectory is going to be up.
Yeah, well, it is going to be better. And, as we talk about military, I'm an Army brat. I went to 10 different schools in 12 years. I went to 4 different high schools, my entire high school experience. I understand what military families deal with and the nomadic life of selfless service to our nation.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal. And as difficult as it is for the service member, it's a heavier rucksack for the family members to carry because they didn't raise their right hand.
What did you call that? A rucksack?
Rucksack.
What is that?
That's what you put all your gear in your backpack.
Is it the same whether you're Army or Navy or it's all the same? Okay.
Yeah.
I had to ask. Damn, I know. I'm going to use that in a sentence later. I'm increasing my
it's
vocabulary.
a heavy rucksack that these family members carry. And, have you ever seen the images of those soldiers and warriors that are out there in Afghanistan? They're wearing 75 pounds on their back.
Yeah.
That's a rucksack. That's a heavy rucksack.
It is a lot.
And anyway, our family members are the ones that have the enormous that we as a community have an enormous debt of gratitude to them because they're the ones that assure the readiness posture of our country by supporting their loved one and following that loved one. And for those that are coming to Bay County, whether it's the Navy or the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, I mean, we're a joint community, the Coasties, everybody's here. What they can count on is a better education system, that we're going to be going on a new trajectory, and that this education opportunity is going to be for all of their family members. And additionally to that, from the Bay District School System perspective, is that we believe in military spouse employment. And we want to make sure that military spouses have opportunities to be employed in our education system. If they want to be teachers, we have broken down the barrier to reciprocity for certification. They can get certification almost immediately with no hassles. If they want to come in and work as paras or clerical or administrative or folks, we can get after that. And so we're really excited about what we're doing to partner to help make this a better place for our teammates to come to.
I got this whole list of things, but I want you to talk about teachers for a minute, because you have, in the interviews you've done, you've expressed that you want to help teachers get back to doing what they are called to do, right? Take this, because you were married to one, you are married to one who used to teach. And so what do you plan to do to make it easier for teachers, or make it so that teachers can do the teaching without all this extra stuff?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And there is a great assault on education. And I think that we should not be ignorant of that. And I think Satan's using a lot of different tools to try to undermine and make people less likely to support their education programs. And so with that in mind, I believe that the tip of the spear for education is the teacher that is in the classroom to support that child. And if you think of a spear, the tip of the spear being the teachers, there's a long shaft behind that supports that teacher. So it's the paraprofessionals, it's the behavioral interventionists, it's the professional school counselors, the administrative staffs, all of those entities, whether they're maintenance or transportation, bus drivers, everyone is doing everything their part to get that child to where they need to be to support that teacher in that classroom. That's where the magic takes place, is in that classroom. That's where learning takes place. And my objective is to lighten their load from all of their ancillary peripheral things that bog them down and free them up so that they have more time teaching and less time doing digits on paper and chasing information for data's sake.
How can parents help?
Parents can help by, number one, praying for their teachers. I'm telling you, our teachers are under great strain and assault, and we need to uplift them. We need to protect them. We need to pray over them and anoint them. Do everything we can to help have God anoint them with His protection, hedge of protection, and spirit of discernment. This is a very difficult time for teachers. The second thing that I think that we can do is to support our teachers. There's a lot of things I've already seen where teachers are not perfect, but they're striving for excellence. And we need to, there's a lot of behavioral issues that go into these classrooms because students have not been raised in potentially in an environment that has been a healthy environment. There's been They witness things that you and I and many of your listeners and viewers would never have seen growing up.
Yep.
And these young kids are experiencing that right now. And that is hindering them from education. We can come alongside our teachers and support them at the schools. We can do the mentoring program, the Elevate Bay program, which is a great program to help get in there and help guide and reinforce what that teacher is doing. But nothing more important or powerful than prayer.
I know that businesses that want to help, I know that the Chamber, Bay County Chamber's got several initiatives. Elevate Bay is one of those. Take Stock in Bay is one. Bay Education Foundation. But I do believe, you and I both were saying, I have been impressed by how many local businesses with new energy and a fresh fire are digging in. And I want to say thank you, but we need more of the support and the encouragement, right?
We do. And to your point, you're spot on. The Bay County Chamber of Commerce, the Beach Chamber of Commerce have both poured themselves into the schools. Yep. And this year, and I've been a passive outside viewer, but this year has gone just seamlessly well with regard to preparation and having kids ready for school. To have the United Way that helped to foster and develop a donation drive where we filled 4 school buses with materials that kids that it's very difficult for some kids to buy a pencil or to have a sheet of paper or to have a backpack. And what we saw was just an amazing outpour of support. And it's through the business communities, but I think it also speaks to the benevolent nature of this community, that this community gets behind kids. And they have seen where we are and where we're going. And I think they are starting to buy into that vision that we're casting for education within Bay District School System. And when I talk about Bay District School System, it's not just the public schools, it's our charter schools, it's our private schools, it's our home schools. This is all under the umbrella of education because these are all Bay County kids. We owe these kids, it doesn't matter which school system, we owe every one of these kids an opportunity to get the best education that they can. And having the business communities that have just poured themselves into all of those endeavors, or I've had companies that have gone out and pressure washed the schools to help our maintenance personnel, because we have a lot of schools here. That's a lot of cobwebs and dust and dirt and debris that builds up over time. Or to do maintenance or helping around the classrooms or painting a classroom for a teacher. I mean, all of those kinds of things are just amazing testaments to the commitment that this community has toward making a better place for our children to go to school. It's amazing.
You stated early on that you want Bay County to be a premier educational opportunity. Is that how you said it? All right.
We're going to pursue the epitome of academic excellence in Bay County. We're going to push the needle, and we're going to go from 35 to 1. We're going there.
Hey, let's go. Let's do it. That means the best is yet to come, right?
The best is yet to come, and I look forward to sharing more with you and your viewers on the podcast and listeners of the progress that we make. And it's a team of teams, everyone drawing together that's going to do this. But let's not take our eyes off of Christ.
Agreed.
If he's the center of this, we can get there.
Listen, we're going to be praying for you guys as a church family. We're going to do everything we can to love the needy in Bay County and in any way that we can through the school district. I'm going to be encouraging others, and I can't wait to see what's in store. I think our best days are in front of us. Thank you so much for being our guest again today. And I hope you wear that cap a lot and help us get the good news out in Bay.
And it's a good news Bay.
Here we are making Bay County brighter, one conversation at a time. Y'all take care. Thank you so much for joining us for the Good News Bay podcast, where we are making Bay County brighter, one conversation at a time. Please help us share this good news and change the conversation by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast.